What if the truth you fought for was called a lie, and the only person who could save you was the most powerful man in the world? The gavel slams once, echoing through the military courtroom. She sits there, accused of stolen valor, her uniform stripped of recognition, her medals dismissed as cheap replicas. The prosecution smiles confidently, certain they will expose her as nothing more than a fraud. The gallery whispers, hungry for humiliation, ready to watch another pretender fall. But what happens when the truth walks through the door, straight from the White House, to shatter every assumption in the room? The courtroom smells faintly of old wood and rain. A thunderstorm is rolled in from the Gulf, battering Fort Harrison with wind that rattles the windows. But inside the tribunal chamber is hotter than a furnace. Captain Elena Martinez sits alone at the defense table, her hands resting calmly in her lap, though her wrists bear faint white scars that no one has noticed. She looks out of place, dressed in standard Army service uniform, but stripped of all insignia. Her ribbons removed, her decorations confiscated as evidence. Across from her, Major Richardson, the prosecutor, is already smiling like a man who's won before the game even started. He's broad-shouldered, clean-cut, the kind of officer who never loses a case. His stack of files is neatly arranged, full of service records and personnel rosters meant to prove one thing. Martinez has never been who she claimed to be, another faker. Someone mutters in the gallery just loud enough for her to hear, pretending she was in combat. Pathetic. Elena doesn't react. She's learned long ago that silence is sharper than protest. Colonel Henderson, the presiding judge, taps his pen against the docket and clears his throat. This tribunal is now in session. The case of United States versus Captain Martinez. Charges impersonating Army Special Operations, falsifying military records, and fraudulent display of not authorized commendations, including the Silver Star. The words hang heavy in the air. Major Richardson rises, his voice smooth and confident. Your Honor, this is a simple case. The accused has been attending veteran events, claiming service in special operations, even hinting at classified missions. She has appeared in photographs with medals she did not earn. She has attempted to pass herself off as something she is not, a warrior. The evidence will show her service was 4 years of logistics work, nothing more. Murmurs of agreement ripple through the room. Elena sits motionless, her eyes fixed on the grain of the table in front of her. She expected this. She was warned this day would come. The first witness, a retired Marine, swears in and points directly at her. She told us she was there. Syria, 2020. She described the operation like she was part of it. Impossible. We all know no woman has ever been part of those missions. Objection. Her defense counsel mutters half-heartedly. But even he sounds like he doesn't believe in her case. He's young, nervous, probably handed this defense as an assignment rather than a choice. The judge waves it off. Overruled. Continue. Piece by piece. The prosecution lays its case like bricks in a wall. Her official file projected on the big screen. Elena Martinez enlisted 2012. Discharge 2016. Logistics specialist. No combattu. No special warfare training. No commendations beyond the Army Commendation Medal. The file looks damning. It is damning. Richardson holds up a photograph of Elena standing at a small veteran event, the Silver Star gleaming on her jacket. This medal, he says triumphantly, is a replica available online for $49. She wore it in public to gain credibility she does not deserve. The gallery shifts with disgust. Some shake their heads, others whisper words like disgrace and fraud. Through it all, Elena sits perfectly still. The storm outside rages harder, thunder cracking like artillery fire. Finally, Colonel Henderson leans forward. Captain Martinez, do you have anything to say in your defense? The room turns to her. Elena lifts her eyes, steady, controlled. She speaks only once. Her voice, even by service record, speaks for itself. Laughter breaks out in the gallery. A cruel, bitter sound. Major Richardson smirks, sensing the victory is his. But then the door at the back of the courtroom opens, not gently, decisively. Two men in suits enter, their earpieces flashing under the harsh lights. Secret Service. The murmurs stop instantly. A third man follows them in, older, steady, the kind of presence that silences a room without speaking. Colonel Henderson rises to his feet in shock. The President of the United States has just walked into the courtroom. The storm outside goes quiet for one impossible moment, as if the whole world is holding its breath. The heavy oak doors close behind the Secret Service agents with a dull thud that seems to reverberate through every chest in the room. For a heartbeat, no one moves. President Jonathan Reeves walks to the front, his polished shoes echoing against the tribunal chamber's floor. His presence fills the space in a way no uniform or medal ever could. This is not the carefully staged entrance of a politician. This is deliberate, unannounced, and utterly disarming. Mr. President, Colonel Henderson begins, his voice cracking as he tries to recover his composure. Colonel Reeves interrupts, his tone calm, but absolute remains seated. The colonel obeys without hesitation, his face pale. The entire gallery, soldiers, Marines, retirees, NCIS agents, even Major Richardson freezes where they stand. Elena does not move either, but for the first time since the proceedings began. Her eyes shift from the table to the man approaching the bench. President Reeves turns, his sharp gaze falling on Major Richardson. This trial, explain it to me. Richardson swallows his earlier confidence, faltering but not extinguished. Mr. President, the accused Captain Martinez has been parading false claims of service. She's been presenting herself as Army Special Operations wearing decorations she never earned, dishonoring those who did. The evidence is overwhelming. Reeves listens silently, then looks back at Elena. She meets his eyes without flinching. Captain Martinez, he says, his voice softer now, but carrying across the silent chamber. Do you know why I'm here? No, sir, she replies evenly. The president reaches into his coat pocket and produces a velvet-covered case, weathered but unmistakable. He sets it on the judge's desk and opens it, revealing a silver star, but not just any silver star. This one carries a specific engraving, a date, and a classified operational code. The gallery erupts into whispers. Henderson pounds his gavel. Silence. This, Reeves says, his voice firm again, is Captain Martinez's medal. Awarded in a secure ceremony attended only by myself, Admiral Foster, and two men whose names will never appear on any roster. It was presented for her actions during an operation in Syria that saved not just diplomatic personnel, but 25 hostages. Caught in the crossfire, gasps ripple through the room. Major Richardson blinks, visibly struggling. Mr. President, with all due respect, no woman has ever Reeves' single word cuts sharper than any gavel enough. He steps closer to Richardson, his presence towering. That statement, Major, is precisely why Captain Martinez's service was classified. She did not claim to be special operations. She never once said those words. Others made the assumption she served in a program so sensitive that even most flag officers never knew it existed. He turns to the gallery, his voice rising with restrained force. And now, because of arrogance and ignorance, she's been dragged into this courtroom. Accused of being a fraud for telling the truth she was ordered never to reveal. The storm outside has returned. Rain slamming against the windows like applause no one dares to give. Elena sits still, her breathing controlled, but for the first time. Her hands clench into fists on the table. Colonel Henderson leans forward, his voice unsteady. Mr. President, you're saying these charges are dismissed, Reeves says flatly. Effective immediately. Tribunal is over. He turns back to Elena, his tones softened again. Private, even as the entire room listens. Captain, you've carried a burden this country asked you to bear, and you did it with honor. I regret that it came to this. You deserve more than secrecy. You deserve recognition. Her lips part slightly as if to speak, but she says nothing. The moment is too heavy, too sharp. Behind them, Richardson tries one last protest. But sir, her service record was sanitized, scrubbed, sealed. The president's eyes burn into him. You think classified programs leave their operators exposed in public files. Major Richardson, let me be clear. If I hear of you or anyone else questioning her honor again, your career will end before the ink dries on your next report. Richardson sinks back into his seat, pale and silent. Reeves gestures toward Elena's defense counsel, who looks like he might faint from shock. Lieutenant Brooks, you'll be provided with a corrected record for your client within the hour. You'll find it far more complete than the one you've been shown here. He turns toward Colonel Henderson. Seal this case, every word, every file, every transcript. No further mention without my direct authorization. Yes, Mr. President, Henderson says quickly, bowing his head. Reeves looks back to Elena one last time, his voice quiet. You are not alone anymore, Captain. Not after today. With that, he closes the metal case, tucks it back into his coat, and turns for the door. The Secret Service moves in perfect precision, clearing his path. The gallery remains frozen, the air electric with disbelief. No one speaks, no one moves. As the president steps out into the storm, lightning illuminates the chamber, and for the first time, Elena allows herself the faintest of smiles. The war isn't over, but the truth has finally drawn its first breath. The tribunal chamber is empty now, the gavel's final echo long gone, yet the silence still weighs heavy. Elena sits alone at the defense table, staring at the wood grain as if the answer to everything lies hidden in the lines. Her court-appointed lawyer, Lieutenant Brooks, stands awkwardly nearby, shuffling papers he no longer needs. Captain, he begins softly. I don't understand any of this. A moment ago, they were ready to strip you of dignity and throw you in prison. Now, the president himself, he stops, searching for words. What are you? Elena raises her eyes to him for the first time all day. Her voice is quiet but firm. I'm a soldier who followed orders. That's all orders. Brooks presses. Orders to what? Pretend. Before Elena can respond. The heavy doors open again. Colonel Henderson re-enters, his composure partly restored, followed by two men in dark suits and a woman in army uniform whose ribbons alone could silence a room. Admiral Foster, Director of Army Special Programs. Every muscle in Brooks's body tenses. He snaps to attention instinctively. Captain Martinez, Admiral Foster says, her tone clipped but not unkind. You'll come with us. Elena rises without hesitation. She doesn't look surprised, almost as though she's been waiting for this. They lead her through a maze of corridors deep into the secure wing of the base far from the tribunal chamber until they reach a windowless conference room humming with electronic countermeasures. The kind of room where the truth can be spoken without fear of it ever leaking. Foster seat. The two men in suits, unmistakably intelligence officers, remain standing. Henderson lingers by the door, his role unclear. On the table before her is a folder stamped with the words shadow compartmented. Foster opens it, revealing photographs, dusty alleyways in Syria, satellite images of compounds, blurred shots of armed men, and then a grainy still frame of Elena herself clad in nondescript local clothes, an M4 rifle slung low, her face half shadowed but unmistakable. Brooks stares, his jaw slack. That's you. Elena remains silent. Foster slides another photo forward. A burning convoy. Several hostages huddled behind an overturned truck. And there's Elena again, crouched low, hand raised, signaling them to move. These were never meant to see daylight, Foster says, her voice steady. But after today, daylight is precisely where this has landed us. The truth they tried to bury until even the president himself could no longer ignore it.